Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this session. In this session, we are trying to address one of the most common questions that we face as Give India from many nonprofit organizations, and a question that we generally ponder upon ourselves a lot, that how do we reach out to new donors? The session is being organized around 10 days in advance of Danutsav, which is celebrated as a Joy of Giving Week in the country. So you'll be seeing a lot of people coming up with various ideas of serving the sector, a lot of volunteering ideas, a lot of people trying to donate to charitable causes of their liking, many people engaging in small volunteering activities to celebrate the spirit of giving in their own way. At Give India, we also attempt to celebrate this spirit by giving an opportunity to all of our partner organizations to raise funds for the causes for their programs that they're working towards and win monetary incentives on the amount that they fundraise. And this we do through our flagship event, which is called 100 Heroes. We have been doing 100 Heroes for over 2 years now. In the last 2 years, we have enabled more than 600 organizations to raise close to 30 crores and win matching incentives. These matching incentives are ultimately helping these charitable organizations to augment their own impact on the field. And we, I think the network is not good. Thank you. These matching incentives have been helping multiple organizations to augment their impact to benefit more number of beneficiaries. And we really hope that this edition of 100 Heroes and Danutsav will be able to help you in the same manner. So just to set a context to what this 1 hour is going to look like, we will spend not more than 10-15 minutes to talk about 100 Heroes in brief and what are the rewarding opportunities. And then we will pass on the floor to our guest speaker, Mr. Rishabh Lalani, who is there with us. So just to get started, as I mentioned, and since most of you are partner organizations of GIVE, this is information that you already have. This is something that you've already been reading through our emails, through our communications, through the terms and conditions document that we are floating around with you for over the last 2 to 3 weeks. So 100 Heroes will begin with Danotsav on October 2nd, and it will go on till November 20th. We are trying to cover the major festivities, starting with Danotsav, also Navratri, Durga Puja, Diwali, and you can continue to take your efforts till November 20th to raise funds for your projects and for your causes. Now, how do you participate in 100 Heroes? If you're already a partner organization of GIVE, you have your fundraising profiles on GIVE Fundraisers platform. If you are yet to be onboarded on the GIVE Fundraiser platform, our onboarding team shall get in touch with you. In case you have any inquiries, we will share our email IDs with you through which you can probably understand the status of your onboarding. So don't worry about that. But yeah, all that is required for you to participate in 100 Heroes is that you're a partner of GIVE and you have your active fundraising profiles on GIVE Fundraisers platform. So as I mentioned, 100 Heroes will start on October 2nd, will go until November 20th, and all funds raised within the duration of 100 Heroes will be counted under this particular umbrella, right? So you could be fundraising for multiple programs, you could be fundraising across multiple fundraisers. Any fundraising that you're doing in this duration using the GIVE Fundraiser platform will automatically get counted. So you don't have to sign up, you don't have to report your numbers anywhere. Automatically, this will happen at the back end. As I mentioned, all you need to ensure is that you have active fundraising profile with GIVE Fundraisers. So the GIVE Fundraiser platform has recently migrated to the new entity, which is give.do/fundraisers. So just ensure that your fundraising profiles are active there. If you need our support in confirming that, we can share our email IDs with you at the end of this session, and we can confirm this to you one-on-one. Now, what is the rewarding structure of 100 Heroes? In this entire duration of fundraising, that is October 2nd to November 20th, the leading 100 charities that will raise the highest amount have an opportunity to win matching rewards starting from 10% match to 100% match. So you can very well see that the rewarding rewards that are up for grabs, it's a huge range, it's a great range of reward that is up for grabs. However, what I'd like to highlight is that you do not need to get intimidated by the fact that the top 100 angels will be rewarded in the central rewarding system. Don't get intimidated by that fact. The fundraising potential of the charities that make up in the top 100, that actually fall in the top 100, is very diverse. In the previous editions, we have seen organizations raising a decent 1 lakh, 2 lakh, also finding their place in the top 100 and securing rewards in the central rewarding system. So do not get intimidated by this fact. All that you should focus on is to ensure that you're putting your best fundraising efforts forward. You're extracting the best possible support from the Give India team and ensure that you're solidifying your standing. In addition to the central rewarding structure, we will keep on giving you opportunities to add more to the rewards that you can win, to add more incentives to win more monetary rewards. That we'll do through our weekly booster incentives. So regularly, we'll keep launching these small incentives that will give you an opportunity to win these incentives, and ultimately they get added on to whatever your final reward in the central rewarding system would be. So there'll be two kinds of rewards. You get your spot in the top 100, you secure a central reward. You also keep participating in these booster incentives, and you also keep bagging these small weekly incentives. Ultimately, all of it gets cumulated, and that becomes a cumulated reward for your organization when the event ends on November 20th. Now, 100 Heroes is all, our fundraising events. They actually give us space to have more people on board and provide one-on-one support to all the participating NGOs. These project consultants would dedicatedly work with you into ensuring that you're able to strategize your fundraising, you're able to understand the platform, navigate through it in case that understanding is missing. We would also help you in setting up your fundraisers, if you like. If you need any support that, I'm not able to understand what kind of content is right or not, please feel free to share that with the allocated project consultants, and they'll be able to review, share their feedback, and assist you in setting up your fundraiser. Now, all of this is something we would ideally like to cover before October 2nd, when 100 Heroes, before the launch of 100 Heroes, so that you have maximum duration allocated for fundraising. You're able to leverage the entire duration of the event for fundraising, which is why it's great if we complete all of that well in advance. However, if you still think that you might want to take a little bit more time, don't worry. Anytime you start fundraising during 100 Heroes is the right time. There's never a late time to start fundraising for the event. While you're fundraising during 100 Heroes, you'd also ensure that you get significant level of operational support in case if you're facing any challenges on the platform, anything that needs to be looked into urgently. These project consultants will be there to ensure that internally we are figuring out things and we're giving you prompt resolutions to you, to your donors, and also to your fundraisers. So feel free to extract and leverage the support that is offered by our project consultants. And ultimately, during this duration, we understand that a lot of you might want to do mass donor reach outs and even one-on-one donor reach outs. So as GIFT, we will be helping you in a certain way by sharing with you customizable communication templates. So we will be sharing creatives that you can share on your social media. We'll be sharing creatives that you can use as a cover image of your organization's Facebook profile. We'll be sharing text messages and emails that you can share with your donors. You may want to definitely customize it because you'd want to put in your own profile URL. You'd want to put in your own personalization, your own fundraising appeal into it. Therefore, we definitely encourage you to customize these, but this will be shared with you around 27th of October. We do not want you to use them well in advance. Otherwise, fundraising could have start in advance. So we'll share it with you a little closer to the event so that you start making use of these templates at the right time. So this is what 100 Heroes entails. If I have to briefly talk about the reward structure, again, this is something that is available in the terms and conditions document that we've been sharing with in all of our communication to all of our NGO partners. The NGOs that will rank in the top 7, they make themselves eligible to 100% matching reward up to 15 lakhs. Second rank will make themselves eligible to a 50% reward up to 10 lakhs, and so on till rank 7. So I'll just give you a few seconds to go through this. The one thing that you should keep in mind is that we definitely expect you, because ultimately it is a fundraising platform. Ultimately, we want you to reach out to, a great number of donors. We have a certain minimum supporter criteria, which is a qualifying criteria for the rewards. So you can ensure that, you're reaching out to as many people and at least 50 individuals coming to your profile and contributing to you towards, whatever ranking that you want to be at. As I mentioned, we would be rewarding the top 100 heroes, and this is the central rewarding system only. So we'll be rewarding the top 100 NGOs, and from rank 8 to rank 100, this is what the rewarding scheme looks like. We do not have a minimum supporter criteria from rank 31st to rank 100. but at least till rank 30, you would be expected to have at least 15 people individually come to your profile and donate to you. As I mentioned, don't get intimidated by top 100. Organizations that recently raised even 1 lakh and 2 lakh have found their place in the top 100. So please don't get intimidated by that. You fundraise to the best of your potential. We will help you to the best of our potential and ensure that you're able to win maximum rewards. Now, speaking of maximum rewards, the one thing that we have been telling you is that we will present weekly incentives and weekly boosted incentives that will allow you to win over and above the rewards that you see in the central rewarding system. So today we are taking the opportunity to introduce to you the first booster incentive of 100 heroes, which will be applicable from October 2nd to October 8th. Introducing Race to a Lakh. I'm sorry, I see a control panel here, so I'm not sure if you're able to see this. Okay, so introducing Race to a Lakh. As I mentioned, Race to a Lakh will take into account all donations that you're getting from October 2nd to October 8th. So all donations from October 8th to November 20th are already getting accounted for 100 heroes. But when we talk about Race to a Lakh, these donations will also be accounted towards this particular mini incentive. Now, what is the criteria? As the name suggests, we want you to race against time and win your first and raise your first 1 lakh. So we are giving you a week's period, which is the entire Danotsav periods, starting October 2nd to October 8th. We give you that week's time. Have a race against time and set a target for yourself that you have to raise at least 1 lakh rupees. As soon as you raise that first lakh within this period of October 2nd to October 8th, you will be eligible to a 20% reward up to 50,000 rupees. So if you raise 1 lakh, you're straight away getting a 20,000 rupee reward. If you raise 2 lakh rupees, you're straight away getting a 40,000 rupee reward. Now, if you think that you have the potential to do better within a 1 week time itself, we don't want you to stop. If you raise 5 lakh rupees in cumulative between October 2nd to October 8th, we will add on another 25,000 rupees to the 50,000 that you have already bagged. And if you think that you can go even beyond, don't stop yourself. Raise 10 lakh rupees between October 2nd to October 8th. Not only will you make yourself eligible to the 50,000 that is up for grabs here, but you'll also make yourself eligible for another 50,000 when you cross the 10 lakh mark. So for every 5 lakh mark that you cross, you're getting a 25,000 rupees additional. So that is what Race to a Lakh entails. As I mentioned, we are dedicating this particular booster incentive to the Danotsav week. So October 2nd to October 8th, whatever fundraising that you're doing, it will also automatically get accounted for Race to a Lakh. The one thing that we want to highlight, in case, if you have a doubt, just in case if you have a doubt that you may not be able to, bag the top 100 spots, don't worry. Whatever booster incentives you will win while fundraising week on week in 100 heroes, that will stay as guaranteed rewards in your kitty, even if you do not qualify for the top 100. So even if you've won something in Race to a Lakh, let's say for some reason you have not been able to qualify in the top 100, don't worry. Your winning in Race to a Lakh will be secured and it will be given to you as a reward. But as I said, it's not very difficult to find our place in the top 100. And hence, I personally am very confident that many of you can make it there. So this is what we wanted to share in terms of 100 heroes. We will change gear now, and we request if any queries or any doubts regarding this could be taken up towards the end of the session. In the meanwhile, you can probably keep your queries with yourself. We will give you time where you can post it on the chat box, or probably you can unmute yourself and ask your questions. But right now we want to change gears to a very important question that we as Give Indians are asked a lot. That how do we add new donors to our pool? What should we do to reach out to new donors? Many of you tell us that, for any fundraising initiative, you're reaching out to the same set of donors. There are definitely some strategic insights that Give India has been trying to add over the years, but we feel that it might add more value to you if you hear from someone who has, rigorous fundraising experience. So today we have with us Rishabh Lalani. Rishabh is well known to many nonprofits in the ecosystem as a fundraising consultant and strategist. In his journey so far, he has raised over 8 crores for multiple organizations as well as for COVID relief works. And working with organizations varying in scale, so working with grassroots level organizations to some very well-established organizations, he has tremendous amount of knowledge and understanding of the nonprofit ecosystem that serves as a source of knowledge for many nonprofits and many people associated with the nonprofit ecosystem, including myself. I have personally attended some sessions that Rishabh has delivered, and they have been great learning experience for me particularly. And I hope that our nonprofit organizations attending this session could also, take away some key insights that can help them in their retail fundraising journeys during Danotsav and beyond for 100 Heroes. So, Rishabh, I now request if Akanksha could unmute you, and I'll stop sharing my screen.
Hello.
Hi, Rishabh, you're audible. Yes.
Right.
Akanksha, let's also pin Rishabh's screen, please.
That's it. Wait.
Hi, Rishabh. Welcome to the session, and I thank you in advance for doing this for us. I'm sure that many nonprofits are actually looking forward to this. Clearly, the attendance is a representative of that. So yeah, the floor is yours.
Right. Thank you so much for having me. This is somewhat of a new subject. How to get new donors. Usually, I'm invited to speak about fundraising, so it's also slightly different from my spiel. I'm gonna take some time to ask people to put in this chat box some of the platforms that they're present on. What kind of social media or communication platforms are you present on? If you can type that out in the chat box, as many people as they can. Not the crowdfunding platforms. So, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, and I'm talking about you, the individual, not your organization. So what platforms are you active on? Think about things like WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal, or things like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. What are all the platforms that you're active on, right? Write it down in one line. And some platforms that I may not even know. All the platforms that you're on. And individually, as the person, not your organization. Reddit. Right. And as we can see, most people are at least on 2 platforms, if not more, right? Okay. The second question I want to ask you is that how many of you messaged your donors, individual, institutional, foundation, or all kinds of donors that you've had in the existence of your organization? How many of you messaged your donors to ask, how are you doing during COVID? So when the lockdown happened, when the COVID lockdown was announced, the first lockdown, the second lockdown, how many of you messaged your donors to ask, how are you doing? Right. Be honest. Individually, organizationally. So those who are messaging that they right. So this is interesting, right? We're present on multiple platforms where we're connected to donors, where we're connected to friends, where we're connected to family, and where we're connected to people who may be potential donors, who may be future donors, people we ask for support or solidarity when we need them. but not many of us actually were able to reach out to all of them and ask them how they're doing, right? If you actually went back to your mailbox and you looked at the, post lockdown situation, most mutual funds that you were invested in, most banks that you had, an account with, most services that you were subscribed to, most people would have sent you newspapers. Most of them would have sent you, some sort of a general message saying, listen, you can count on us if you're sick and we're there for you, or offered you some sort of a distraction, either in the form of a newsletter or information or something like that, right? This is to say that most private companies actually reached out to us when we were down and out with COVID, to say that they remember us, even if it was a general message. But most nonprofits actually didn't reach out to all their donors, because frankly, I mean, we didn't. If we actually, put down all of the donors we needed in a database, I think that information would be hard to find, right? In most nonprofits. So I want to start with that contrast, right? We're present on multiple platforms, but we don't keep in touch with people frequently. We have many donors, but we don't ask all of them how they're doing. And we're all social purpose organizations. We're all organizations with the goal to check the well-being of the communities around us. So there's a contrast that's available there, and that's the starting point that I want to get onto, right? Most of our donors are present around us, especially in the form when we're looking at crowdfunding. These are people who are sitting in our mailbox. These are people who are sitting on our LinkedIn. These are people sitting in our Instagram. These are people sitting on our WhatsApp. These are people sitting on Facebook. And we're present on multiple platforms, both individually and organizationally, right? And I think what most nonprofits don't do is database the people that we have on all of these platforms, right? So if you actually went to your Gmail, you can start grouping people in a certain category. So these could be nonprofits, this could be connectors, these could be friends, family, right? You can start grouping a lot of these people. And if I actually asked most people here, I'm assuming that 80% of us wouldn't have done that segmentation, even in our Gmail inbox, as to how to categorize each person in a database appropriately at the level of institution and at the level of individual, right? So if you were to actually raise money this Daan Utsav, I would say the first thing you should do is start grouping people on Gmail, on your phone book, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, where on the basis of who they are in your network, start identifying your network. Are these people connectors? Are these people fellow nonprofits? Are these people friends? Are these people, companies? Or are these people, former donors, future donors, current donors? Start databasing wherever you are. Start grouping wherever you are. Start putting all of this down in some cogent format, right? Because the more you organize, the easier it is to figure out who to target, right? That's the number one thing for us to do. And this is going to hold you instead, maybe for the next 5-10 years, if you build it as a practice, right? The second thing I would like to say to you is that most of us start asking for money when we need the money, which means that 2nd of October, maybe hundreds of you are going to write to the same 10 people asking for money. And guess what? The person who's receiving the email is either going to give the money to the first person whose email lands on their WhatsApp, on the inbox, or the first message that they receive on their WhatsApp, or they're going to ignore you, right? So one of the first things to do now that you have 10 days at hand or more is to start priming the people who you want to write to, right? When I say priming, I mean that, if you have a database ready, if you've identified the people who you want to write to, and this is an absolute prerequisite, right? Then start sending them messages about your work and start sending them emails about your work now, right? Don't ask for anything. Don't send an email about donating right now, but send at least 3 emails in the next 10 days, reminding them of who you are. It's one of those things, right? When a friend calls 20 years after you've passed out of college or 10 years after you've passed out of school, you don't know what this guy's calling you for, right? But if they start calling you frequently, then there's familiarity, there is warmth, and that's what you want to figure out, right? That's what you want to see if this person, if you can get close enough to this person to ask them for something, right? So start priming the people you want to write to, right? The third thing that's very, very important is that in all of this, what is it that you're going to ask for, right? Is it money for your organization? Is it money for a project? Is it money for a product? And how are you going to ask for it? So is it going to be an ask for your organization because your cause is good enough, or it's something that resonates with most people's sentiments? Or are you going to reward people for their contribution, and what that reward is going to be like? Does that have financial, non-financial implications, right? So start thinking about that. When you start the campaign, I would encourage all of you to create a small core team that is beyond the people in your organization. So if you start looking at your network, and if you start looking at your friends and family and people who are close to your organization, identify at least 5 to 8 people who can be your small, let's say, board of advisors or board of supporters during the crowdfunding campaign, during the 100 Heroes campaign. What does this mean? This means that your own network is limited, right? At best, let's say you have 5 to 10,000 people across all social media platforms. You probably segmented all of those guys. You figured out that, some of these people can give, some of these people cannot give, all of those things, right? And let's say people within your organization, not everyone's good at fundraising, but some people might be great at fundraising. And you've segmented their network also. You figured out who within their network can give or donate during the campaign. But that's not enough, right? Because that's still within your sphere of influence, right? The best way to find new donors is to be able to expand the people who are running the campaign with you, right? This means that you will have to start preparing collateral, material, email, messages that these guys can send to their network and to these people. And again, identifying these people means that you should be able to say who's a person who doesn't have any inhibitions about writing an email to their on their Facebook Messenger, who's the person who has no inhibitions about sending messages on their Instagram, right? So on and so forth. And so all of these things are things that you need to start thinking about when you're planning your crowdfunding campaign, when you're planning your, strategy around all of this, right? One of the best ways to get new donors, again, is to recognize that most people that you're going to message and most people that you're going to write to, they will not respond at one go, right? Which means that, let's say within your community of people, let's say 5 people are running the campaign with you, and between you have access to 25,000 people. And within this 25,000 people, you're able to reach out to, I don't know, 2,500, 3,000 people directly through direct messages. These 3,000 people will need to be messaged every day. these 3,000 people will need to be reached out to on respective platforms on a daily basis. So this is intense work. This is not slow work, right? And this has to be done on a daily basis. And so figuring out what your, sort of daily tracker looks like, who are the people who've contributed, who are the people who've committed, is very, very critical to this whole thing, right? So keep a daily tracker, keep a daily log, see if the campaign is moving fast enough, if you're able to add new donors, and keep sending repeat messages to these people. And these messages have to be personal. The thing about any crowdfunding campaign, whether it's offline or online, is that it's peer-to-peer. What does that mean? It means that people are giving because I am asking them to give, right? And the next person will give because their closest person is asking them to give. And that's really how it's going to function. So it's not a function of your great work. It's not a function of great visuals. It's not a function of great design. It's a function of who's asking for the money, right? So you have to keep equipping people. You have to keep pushing people to either give or say no, right? And you have to keep following up. It's also important to recognize that you have to meet people where they are. This means that if you've messaged someone on LinkedIn and they've not responded to you, then you might want to message them on Facebook. And if they've not responded to you there, then you might want to message them on Instagram. And if they've not responded to you there, then you want to message them on Twitter, right? The point that I'm trying to make is that you have to reach people where they are and not vice versa, which means that people won't come to the platform that you're on. And not everyone who's present across all platforms uses all of those platforms on a daily basis. Some people check LinkedIn maybe once in 10 days. Other people go on Instagram maybe once in a month or once in 3 months. Some people are more active on Facebook and some people are more active elsewhere, right? So you have to see where people are and engage with them on that level, right? So don't get disheartened if you don't get a reply on LinkedIn because you don't know where the other person's sitting and what they're doing, right? And in this work, I think it's also important to try and see if you can keep reaching out to experts who can also become ambassadors for your work, right? So let's say, if there's 100 fundraising consultants out there, and, reach out to a couple of them, talk to them, take on board their strategies, take on board what other people have done, take learning lessons from people's work, and maybe set up a call with them mid-campaign. Set up some time with them during the campaign and check in if what you're doing is right, if there's new things that you can do, if there are new ideas that you can come up with, right? That's very, very critical because sometimes there's also fatigue in all of this work, right? So this campaign, I don't know how long the 100 Heroes campaign is, but whatever campaign that you're running, it shouldn't run more than 20 to 22 days, right? Because what you can do in that time is you can concentrate all of your year's work, all of your annual fundraising at one go and put it all on, in during this campaign. The great thing, as I'm understanding about this campaign, is that there's some matching amount, there's some reward and award for amounts that you raise, but it's also important and it's worth seeing if you can find matching donors, who are not Give India. So during this campaign, let's say, you tie up with a corporate foundation, or you tie up with another corporate who wants to give CSR money, and maybe they can match, 1-on-1 or 1 to 0.5 of whatever amount of money that you can raise, right? And that's very, very important because people want to see their money multiply. People want to see if their money can do more, right? So that's important. Finally, I want to say that in all of this, once you're able to get this data together, get all of these people together with you and get people to give money to you, it's very important to thank them. And it's very important for you to get all of that information within your organization. What does this mean? You've put in all the hard work on going on multiple platforms. You've put in all the hard work of creating a collateral, different kinds of collateral. You've put in all the hard work of expanding your team, getting volunteer mentors or supporters into this, and you do this on a daily basis. And all of this data will now sit with Give India's platform, where all the donors have come in, they've put in their email addresses, they've put in their phone numbers, they've put in their ATG details, right? At the end of the campaign, take all of this data, put it on a mailing list and create a list of create this list and send newsletters to them every month, cultivate them every month, reach out to them every month, and make sure that you thank them individually, one-on-one, either through handwritten letters or personalized emails or whatever, for contributing to the, this work, right? When you do this for 22 days, recognize that you have a team that's been working with you, recognize that there are Give India consultants that are working with you. And it's important for you to talk to each other on a daily basis. This means that at the end of every day of the campaign, all of you should get on a Zoom call, or if you're in the same city, all of you should meet at a common place, take a download on what's worked, what hasn't worked, change the, campaign based on whatever it is that, you see as, improvements that need to be made during the campaign, right? So get together every day, and at the end of the campaign, after 22 days, try and celebrate yourself. Try and recognize that you've managed to raise whatever amount of money, whether it's 5,000, whether it's 50,000, whether it's 1 lakh, whatever, right? The other thing that's also important is to periodically send updates during the campaign to everyone who's donated and everyone who's a potential donor, right? So this means that you should be ready with, let's say if there's a 20-day campaign, at least once in every 5 days, you should be sending out a mailer to everyone, maybe a WhatsApp message to everyone who's participating or who you think you can participate, right? If you're really, really good and if you are really organized as a team, it's also worth it to see if you can start calling people now and take a commitment from them even before the campaign starts, right? Which means that whatever target you have, if you can get X number of commitments, then you know that on day 1 of the campaign, that money is going to flow in, right? Which means your job is easier by the end of the campaign. So these are some things to think about when you're running the campaign, right? And what this will do, because you've included so many people in the campaign, because you've added so many people on the platforms that you're in, because you've reached out to multiple platforms, multiple people, multiple days with different messages, inevitably you will go beyond your circle of influence. Inevitably you'll go beyond, your WhatsApp list. You will go beyond your Facebook list. You'll go beyond your, Instagram list, whatever it is, right? And it's, this is gonna, expand your orbit. So always remember that the big fish are in the same pond as the small fish, which means that, if you're looking for your next CSR donor, if you're looking for your next HNI donor, it's most likely that you're going to find them in the list and pool of donors who are going to come on your crowdfunding page and give you donations, right? And that's always going to create momentum for the future. So don't take this lightly. Don't take it like, acha, ye to chota mota hai, or this is like a small thing, or this is something we have to do during Dhan Utsav. But, start figuring out that this is where you're going to get your next sort of pipeline from. So this is very, very critical in all of the work that you're doing. And if you get tired and if you get really, really zoned out during all of this work, breathe. But this is a 20-day sprint. This is not a marathon. So you really, really, really have to hustle during these 20 days. There's no escaping that. You have to live this campaign on a daily basis. You have to rejuvenate yourself, and which is why those team calls at the end of the day are really, really important, because then you'll have the energy to do this. If you have a mentor, or if you have like a well-wisher who you can speak to on a daily basis, who can be your sounding board, then please go ahead and use them. Please go ahead and speak to them on a daily basis, because those are the people, who are going to be sort of supportive of your work throughout the campaign. So I'm going to kind of pause here, because I'm sure a lot of you will have questions, doubts about how to organize this. I'm happy to listen in and maybe, give my inputs on some of this.
Hi, this is Abhay Math. We had a last cycle of 100 heroes. We were participant and we got a good response. That was the first time our institution participated in it, and we could get a matching contribution also. So this thing works very well for us. over a period of time, we have gathered a list of almost 400 to 500 donors, small, big, in the range of 5,000 to 6 lakh, 8 lakhs individual donors, which will be eligible for crowdfunding. My specific question is there any system Give India provides further life cycle of these donors, like triggers, and we can set up the frequency of the communication. Every time the communication can be different, and communication can happen through the system. And there can be a continuous, donation that can flow in through the portal if Give India provides that kind of thing, or any other suggested platform for that. Because it's very difficult to manage manually on the Excel, and we have a mass WhatsApp communication, and the email combination that you suggested, that's a good best practice that definitely we will adopt it. But not in this entire lot of people. They're so conversant with the email. They're mostly conversant with the WhatsApp. WhatsApp is de facto typical communication that we see all over.
So Rishabh, I'll answer that on the Give's behalf, and then if you have any strategies how you manage it, I'm sure NGOs would love to hear that. We have been considering about bringing systems in place where NGOs could be allowed to update their donors, they could be allowed to set automated emails. However, because at Give we have a strict policy that your donor data belongs to you, we don't get to access your donor data, and therefore any ways of managing that donor data should remain with the NGOs. We have been, a little restrictive in kind of exploring this idea. At this point of time, the only feature where we provide NGOs to, send out or shoot out mass emails or appeals to their donor is on the fundraiser portal, where you can upload your email list and, you can send out the emails from the portal itself. However, yes, there are ideas, I'm sure, that this comes across as feedback for us. There are ideas that we can explore. And if we feel that this is a general consensus and these are the kind of features that will help you, we are happy to take them up for discussion. However, at this point of time, since we do not have this facility ready at this point of time, I request if Rishabh, you'd probably want to add something as to how you are managing it, and if anything NGOs can take from there.
I'm sorry, you have to tell me what is it that needs to be managed?
The donor database. So the NGOs wants to see if there are specific systems that can trigger out emails and updates.
Right. So if you're not using CRMs, then obviously this is hard.
Yeah.
So CRM is a customer relationship management tool. And I would say that there are free CRMs like ERP Next, HubSpot that you can integrate with your sort of mailbox and easily shoot out some of these mails. If you're not using that, then there's something called GMAS. That's an extension on your sort of but sometimes those mails also go on spam, right? I think you have to design mail templates in a way where with minimum sort of edits, it seems very personal to everyone who receives it. So there's a way to do this, and you have to craft it in a smart way, right? There's no better way to do this than to actually do this. But ideally, I would say that try and see if you can get your hands on a free CRM, set it up. And if that works for you, then nothing like it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
Maybe there was a question from you. Is there a way to generate different fundraiser link that can help us track the success of different forms of funding? I'm not sure if I get the context correctly, but if you're talking about that, sending your fundraiser across different channels and understanding that what channel is working for you. So at Give India, we have started the new fundraiser feature as it looks like it. We have given you a share feature that allows you to share it across different social media platforms. Anytime you would share using that button, using that promote feature, or using that button, it will add the UTM parameters, and whatever fundraising is happening through the different fundraising appeals that, let's say, you're sharing on Facebook, or some fundraising appeal you're sharing on Instagram, for different channels, we'll be able to give you the data as to what from Facebook share, how much have you been able to raise, from Instagram share, how much have you been able to raise. So that is something we have enabled. It's been a few months. However, yes, it's still something that angels need to start using.
That's phenomenal if you can track traffic. I think when you send mails, there are mail trackers that you can use, right?
Yeah.
Where you can see how many times the mail's been forwarded, or who's opened the emails, and that'll help you kind of segregate content also. um, I mean, not segregate content, but actually improve content per se, and that's very useful because not every content, not every sort of material that we send, people read that. So sending too long an email or sending too impersonal an email is usually sort of counterproductive. So maybe think about some of those things is what I would say. In terms of, I want to make this point again about databasing, right? So this isn't like, this isn't an overnight thing, right? So if you've never done it, you'll realize that, well, it's a struggle, right? If you're an organization that's been around for 10, 15, 20 years, and you've not made the attempt to put things on an Excel sheet or to segregate and segment your mailbox, then it's going to be time consuming. But once you start doing it, it becomes a process, right? So maybe take the help of 10, 20 volunteers and start putting things down, right? Somewhere, like use a LinkedIn helper to start segregating LinkedIn data. Use, Gmail labels to start segregating, people in your contact list on that, right? Try and download your contact list on an Excel sheet and see if you can start segregating that on some place. See if you can put your Facebook friends in some category. I know there's no sort of custom categorization available on Facebook, but try and see if you can put some of that data on an Excel sheet, or at least like go through your 3,000 friends and say, okay, these are the people whose contact details I have, and these are the people who I need to get in touch with, and maybe start sending them messengers, start sending them immediate requests on the messenger saying, hey, listen, can I have your contact details? I'd like to speak to you, whatever, right? Some of these things are manual work if you start with it, but the moment you start with it and the moment you start organizing yourself, it will become easier one step at a time. Like, I don't know how many of you have these visiting card bundles that we used to collect. Like, I have a bunch of them, and I've put all of them on an Excel sheet, right? Which means that these are people who may not have heard from me in a long time, may not even remember me, but they're going to get like a message from me, and who knows, someone's going to sort of put it out there. Another tactic to try also in terms of doing more than 30,000 followers on LinkedIn, or more than 20,000 followers on Twitter, or people who, let's say, who are 30, 40, 50,000 followers on Instagram, right? And if these are your friends, or if these are people who create a strategy with them to promote your campaign as well. I mean, that's another way to flow out of your orbit, right? Because that ways, you get access to a totally new kind of audience that otherwise isn't available, right? So that's also an interesting way to drive organic traffic towards your work. If you can get free Facebook ads, if you can get free Instagram ads, free Twitter ads from friends in the company, from friends who you may have, or if you already have Google credits, etc., from I don't know, from an application that you may have made in the past, start promoting your campaign. When you promote your campaign, it's most likely that you're not going to get any donations out of it. But what happens is when you put on those promotions, someone who's visited the Give India page will start seeing that on their feed on Facebook, will start seeing that on their feed on Instagram. And that means the recall bias becomes really, really strong. And if with all of the messaging that you're doing with frequent emails, messages, and all of that, if these things appear as a banner on social media, then the recall is so quick that you might just end up getting some money at the end of it, right? So these are two other things that you can also try, but keep databasing. I mean, there's even if it's manual work, databasing is one of the most important things that you can do to ensure that your organization is actually building some institutional memory around all of this, because these people then going forward will become your recurring donors. These people will become people who contribute to the cause, all of those things, and that's very, very important. Yeah.
Vishal, there's one question that says, is it a right strategy to hammer people for donations? I'm sure that you've already covered that, and what kind of priming they should do for the next 10 days. But is there anything that you probably want to elaborate on that front?
So the general rule is don't follow up more than 4 times with anyone. I mean, that's like an etiquette or whatever. But I want to say something. A no is never a no in this context, in the sense that a no is for you to analyze what the no is for. Rejection should never be taken as a rejection of you or a rejection of your cause. Maybe a rejection is a rejection for the way you've asked, or what you've asked for, or when you've asked for, or how much have you asked for. And those are important things to consider before sort of giving up, right? So rather than badgering someone, try and figure out, the analysis of that no, and then you'll know automatically when to stop. Because if the no is, listen, I don't have any money to give, then it's a no, right? But then can you ask them to promote the campaign? Can you send them a header image that they can put on LinkedIn and Facebook? Can they turn their WhatsApp DP into, a donation page? Can they put out a, I don't know, a story on Instagram or Facebook asking for donations? Those are interesting things to try and do. So don't take a no as a straight no for everything, but use that no as an opportunity to ask for different things or ask differently, right? And beyond that, of course, I mean, listen, the success rate in any case is going to be 2 to 3% of your total denominator. It's not going to be more than that, right? So, I mean, if you're really active in your network and you're a great networker, then maybe you reach up to 8 to 10%, but that's like when you have a phenomenal networker and people really like you, or you have a brand that's really sort of gets really high recall, but that's exceptional, right? Beyond that, not like 2 to 3% of your denominator is a great success rate. I see. Sanjana, Genesis Foundation. You can see that your hands are up.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
All right. So I think you pretty much covered how many times we can reach out. You said maybe the magic number is 4. Because here's something that we were doing. We weren't really asking. I mean, we wanted to start afresh and we wanted to reach out and probably gather attention to a campaign that we started. Sorry, I'm just going to give you a little bit of context. And we thought that, we could ask for something small to begin with. Exactly what you said, maybe if not donate, like you can just donate a puny amount, but more to, in order to enough. Like I was just trying to get a foot in the door. And we reached out to quite a few influencers. We didn't try and make it too gimmicky. It was something small, something doable. It was just something that they had to share on their story. I'm just trying to ask, how could we have done it better? I think that's what my question is. Because my thing was pretty straight up. It was on WhatsApp. We got their numbers. I reached out to them maybe 4 times, if not 5. And then I decided to hold back because I didn't want to get blocked. So yeah, that's pretty much my question. How do we get to do something like if not in money, but how can they be useful to us in kind or something like that?
I mean, see, in an online crowdfunding campaign, there's only so much you can ask for, right? In the sense that if someone's not able to provide resources, can they provide you publicity? If someone can't provide you publicity, can they provide you an audience? If they can't provide you an audience, can they help you with connections, or can they help you with and only when you talk to someone enough and only if you analyze the no enough would you be able to do that. The second is, where is the person placed, right? I mean, if this is a person, let's say, who works in HR in some company, right, and they say that they can't give, can they connect you to the CSR person in the organization, or can they connect you to, let's say, can they do an employee engagement where you address the employees and you ask for funds from the employees, right? I'm just giving you an example. Different people are located differently. And so you have to be careful about what is in their sphere of influence. So keep this in mind, right? What is their sphere of influence? And if their sphere of influence is something that resonates with you, can you make that connection? You have to do this on the fly. You have to do this in a way where you're able to respond to it in the moment. And that's something for organizations to work on, and for organizations to kind of keep in mind when they're talking or reaching out to people. So that's my limited comment on what can you ask for. Otherwise, all the practices that I said, right? Ask for 4 times. If they don't respond, then
Pranav, may I ask a question? It's more technical for particularly this campaign on Give India.
Sure, I think we can take 2 more questions. So there are already 2 questions similar on the chat box, and we can definitely take your question as well. You can go ahead.
So I just wanted to know, Rishabh was also mentioning, like, if we were to do something like an employee fund, employee giving, now how does that technically come through, particularly for this campaign through Give India? Because I'm looking at it more as individual donations, right? And then if you have a larger group that comes, how does it work?
So if you're asking from a Give India perspective, what you could actually do is, as Rishabh said, that you could reach out to different people who can connect you with the correct person in your corporate network. What you could
No,
do
once
is,
I've done that, I'm saying technically, if the donations have to be made to the platform,
yes,
yeah,
we should
sorry.
do it. We should set that up as a fundraiser. Offer to the corporate that the fundraiser could have your own branding. With our, with our own cause statement, the fundraiser could have your own branding, and the relevant person from the corporate could share it within the employee network. However, if you're looking for a recurring employee giving model, that is a conversation we should have separately offline, in case you already have a corporate that is interested to implement that for you.
Could you come again with the corporate thing? What did you say? I didn't get it right. Like, what we need to do with the corporate? They start a fundraiser, or we do it and send the link?
You could start a fundraiser for the corporate, incorporate their branding, just share the URL with them. Let's reduce their efforts. Let's share the URL with them. Let's ask them to share that fundraiser among their employee network.
Okay, great.
It could be a Danutsav idea for them that, this Danutsav, we are supporting this organization for this particular cause, and it would be great if you guys could all come together and contribute. So these are some strategies some few of our NGO partners have been using. Every time we don't have to rely them for CSR money. Let's try to look out for backups. Rishabh, I'll just take another question, and I think there are 2 questions that are similar in nature. So people are asking if donor fatigue is a myth or is it a reality? And then there's a related question that asks that, is it fair to reach out to the same set of donors over and over again for all your different campaigns?
So I should answer that question, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yes. You should ask the same people to give you things every year, because you want them to be connected with what you do. But you don't want to ask the same donor for different things every time, right? So you should be able to say, listen, this is a guy who gives me 5,000 a year, or this is a guy who gives me 5 lakhs a year, and don't ask for the same things from the 5 lakh guy and from the 5,000 guy. I mean, that's it's as simple as that, right? And when you say over and over again, do you mean that you have 1 or 2 or 10 donors and you ask them for everything? Then maybe within that 10, you need to separate who these people are. Maybe it's a great opportunity to strengthen your muscle. So many of you I know will try these campaigns and will not succeed, and that's okay. Go through the whole process, do the whole thing, right? Keep messaging, keep writing, keep sending emails. I think it's important to show up on a daily basis, even if it's like, at the end of the campaign, you probably get 20 donors or 50 donors, or maybe, I don't know, you get 10 donors. Show up and build this muscle, because you're going to use the same strategy next year, right? So ask the same donors every year. Of course, they are part of your value. They're part of your, doing. They should be updated for everything. And it's a great opportunity to bring them up to speed, if nothing else, right? So ask the same donors, but ask different donors for different things. And don't ask the same donors for everything.
Great. I think that pretty much answers the question. So if there are any more queries that you'd like us to address, my team will share our
I have a
email ID.
query here from Rishabh. So, hi Rishabh, I'm from Team Everest NGO. My name is Ashwini. So, how to retain a donor? Is there any tried successful methods on donor retentions? How to come and make them donate for second time, next time, or volunteer with us regularly, Rishabh? Is there any successful methods on donor
Engagement,
retentions?
which means that,
Yes.
I mean,
Regular engagement. So donor comes and donates first time.
so,
So
so,
we,
so
yeah.
I think it's important to know that sending a newsletter isn't enough. Right.
Okay.
So while you send your reports and for all of that, you may send that 3 or 4 times. Most people are not going to read it, right? So what are other methods that you can try and talk to them about? For example, Team Everest works on raising scholarships, right?
Yes.
Now, what if you actually recorded an audio message from one of the sort of scholarship holders and sent it to the donors, right? Or what if they actually recorded a video of themselves and sent it to donors? Or what if they took a selfie with 100 of them and said thank you, right? And each
No,
of
we
the
all do. We try so many methods. We do so many things. Response rate seems to be very less.
no, so not everyone's going to be retained, right?
Okay.
No, so again, none of this works 100%.
So, our retention percentage usually be 20 to 25% generally every year.
Right, right. So maybe you want to increase that and you want to try newer methods. But
Hmm.
if you're not using a CRM,
Hmm.
this means that you don't know which donors want what kind of messaging, right? And if I were you, and if I had the list of 100 donors who give to me every year, I'd call each one of them, after they made a donation, asking if they're happy with the services or if they're happy with the kind of message that they've got or if they wanted more. And I'd put that down on the CRM, right? So I don't know if you're doing that. I don't know when you send them emails or when you send them newsletters, if there's an option for them to give you any feedback or ask for any sort of specific things that they're looking for. And some of this has to be repetitive, right?
Okay.
So in the sense that, let's say, someone made a donation, right? I should be able to give them a call right away and say that, hey, listen, you made a donation. Have you received a thank you note? Have you received your ATG? Was everything all right in your experience? Is there something that you'd like to know? And this information should be going out in your CRM. And your CRM could be your Excel sheet. Your CRM could be an automated database. Your CRM could be a comment on your notebook. So I'm not commenting on the automation piece, but just generally saying that, are you checking in on the people who are donating to see if they're
Yes. So every year we have 10,000 new donors. So our database is very huge. So we find it very difficult to know. On the only option we could communicate to them regularly is through WhatsApp or through mail. Individual call
you can
for
you,
5,000 to
you
10,000 donors,
so,
we are finding is very difficult.
so
That's
do an IVRS.
okay.
I mean, there are so many services available. Do an Exotel, connect it to a CRM, let automated calls go. Because the other thing that I must say is that none of this is free of investment, right? So when you're raising money, you have to also allocate part of that money back into the system. So this is in general an income stream from which you have to also expand that denominator or that base. So while you may try some free systems like sending mailers, etc., and some the more sort of expansive your work is, the more you have to invest. So if you're at 10,000 donors, I would imagine more than one Ashwini is present in that system doing this, right? And Team Everest is a bunch of volunteers. So I would imagine that all of these volunteers are actually at it, right? So if you're 10,000 donors strong, and if you're 3,000 volunteers, then I don't see why 30 calls can't be made by each of these 3,000 volunteers. But someone's got to track it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to take a minute and Rishabh, I thank you for giving us your time.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this. I'm sure that many of our NGO partners are able to take away some very meaningful insights from this session. In case any of your queries are not answered, please feel free to write to us on 100heroes@givindea.org. I'll just take another minute just to let you know what will follow. We will definitely share the recording of this webinar with you. Thank you, Rishabh. Thank you so much. We'll definitely take share the recording of this webinar with you. So if you've missed out on a certain aspect of the session, don't worry, you will have it handy. Next, what we'll also do is we will also share the terms and conditions of Race to a Lakh as a part of the email with you. In addition to that, we will also be introducing the project consultants that you would be connected with during the duration of 100 Heroes. So we'll make that introduction right away. All right. So you should be expecting this communication from us in another 1 hour or so. All right. I really thank all of you for attending this session. I thank Rishabh again for agreeing to do this. I hope that you're able to take some meaningful insights from here, and I wish you all the very best for 100 Heroes. In case you have any queries around 100 Heroes, how to participate, what are the rewarding criteria, please feel free to get in touch with your product consultants or write to us on 100heroes@givindia.org. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.